All right, looks good. So to start with, you'll be in this very boring looking menu system. There's only four levels available right now, and that's because each one takes a little bit of manual labor to get working, and I'll explain why in a bit. But to select a level, you just press on the touchpad and point at the one that you want, and then let go, and you'll be transported into the level. So of course, since it's room scale, you can get up, you can walk around, and to teleport, you just press the touchpad again, um, and let it go wherever you want to go. Now, the teleporting system I'll talk about in a bit. The code is from a project called the Steam VR Utility Toolkit, which has a lot of useful code in it, not just the teleport system. But uh, I did modify it a little bit from the way it behaves by default, and that's because I really wanted to be able to teleport kind of long distances. You'll see these kind of arcing teleporters are getting pretty common now, but most of them are kind of adapted for just kind of short distance teleporting. But when you're in a game like this, there's often jumps because Mario can jump really far. So you often want to kind of like cross a large gap with your teleporter. And I wanted to increase the distance, but at the same time, I wanted to make it so it was still usable kind of up close. So there's a bit of a balancing act. I'm not sure I have it completely correct yet. But basically, when you're using this, if you want to go down, you should be able to head downward pretty far. Um, and when you're going up, of course, if you just point up, it should bring you there. But when you're going up, the furthest point is going to be about 45 degrees on your controller. And then once you start pointing it upward again, it should bring it closer, and kind of instead of lengthening. So here it's kind of lengthening the distance, and then I can continue lengthening by pointing it upward, and then that line should get shorter, or sorry, the arc should get shorter and shorter as I bring it in. It's not quite perfect yet. I'm not 100% satisfied with it, but uh, it does help when you're trying to get up on top of something that's really tall, like the roof of the castle, for example. So uh, as far as the rest of the controls go, um, there's only two others. One is if I want to warp back to the initial starting place where I started in the level, I hold the grip buttons and I pull the trigger, and that'll put me back where I started. This is really handy if you get stuck inside some geometry. The other thing you can do is just hit the menu button, and that will take you back to the main menu. And that's it for controls. In fact, that's pretty much it for the whole viewer. You can just go to different levels and walk around and admire them. As far as the cleanup I was talking about, for each level, there's a bit of fiddling. And the reason for that is that the code that I'm using to export the geometry from the ROM. I should say you have to provide your own ROM to run this. I guess that should be obvious, but just in case it wasn't. But anyway, you drop a ROM into the data folder of the application. It extracts the data, caches it on your hard disk, but the code that it uses to extract the data is not 100% perfect. It leaves a lot of stuff kind of broken and janky sitting around. And what I've done is for each level, I go through and I kind of pick out in the meshes, okay, this I want to stay and this I want to go. So it works on a per object level. So there'll be some objects I can just kind of pluck out and go away, but others are not so easy. So you see this kind of glitch here where there's windows hanging in the sky. Well, I could delete those windows, but the way the code works right now, I would also delete all these other windows on the castle, which I don't want to do. I think those kind of add to the environment. So um, for the most part, the system I'm using, it works. It's really simple and it saves me a lot of time compared to what I'd have to do, which is otherwise, which is edit the mesh in an actual 3D editor, find the polygons, delete them, and then create like a diff file that I could apply to the extracted data. That would be fine, but it's a lot of extra work for something for basically adapting to code which doesn't really work in the first place. Whereas the alternate strategy would be to go in and fix the code. Unfortunately, the code is written in D, which is a programming language I don't know, and there would be a bunch of stuff I would have to figure out to kind of get it working for my purposes. Anytime you're dealing with reverse engineering, it's difficult. You spend a long time looking at hex editors and stuff. So I'm happy with the system I have now, but it could be better if I had better ROM extraction code. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. The guy who wrote that code, I don't know his name. He just posted on a forum somewhere, and I'm really grateful because it saved me a ton of time for this project. And actually, I'm amazed at how quickly this project came together. Setting it up in Unity and getting it basically working only took me a couple hours. And the whole reason for that is because all the hard work was already done for me by that code and by the SteamVR utility toolkit. And most of the rest of the time was just tweaking the levels. So if you want to see what it looks like, what a level looks like kind of untweaked, I actually have I commented out the code that removes some of the junk from this level. So you'll see what it looks like if I don't remove it. So like there's an example of a quad that's Z-fighting. It's probably like the shadow of a tree or something, but it just happens to be overlaid on top of that quad. And it's really triangles, but the Unity renderer doesn't know how to deal with it. Of course, on the N64, whatever rendering code they were using would be rendering it properly. But there's really no workaround for Unity other than just kind of deleting the extra shadow, which isn't even a shadow for anything because the exporter code doesn't export a tree there. And then there's other stuff here. There's this lump of weird Goomba texture. There's coins, flat coins hanging in the air. There's this giant chain chomp, which is half buried in the ground. And oops, I just bonked my controller against something. There's a giant star that's way too big and a signpost hanging in midair. So if you enjoy seeing glitchy stuff like this, by all means, go into the code. It's on GitHub, and if you know a little bit about C#, Unity, feel free to mess with it and get it back. But the binaries that I will post in GitHub will not have this stuff enabled. So that's about all I wanted to say. If you have any comments, feedback, especially if you want if you have a level in particular that you'd want me to do next, let me know. You can contact me on GitHub, or I'll also be posting this video on Reddit. You can comment there. There's, if you want to do a level yourself and about Unity and C# and all that, you can always give it a try. And I'm very open to other types of requests and feedback as well. So have fun, enjoy this in being inside this wonderful game, and catch you later.